What's up, everybody? Welcome to System Crafters Live. I'm David Wilson, and we're back again with another Friday stream where we get together as a community and talk about whatever topic I came up with this week. And as usual, it's another last-minute topic, but it's relevant because it's some things I was working on while I was out for the holidays last week. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to collectively learn some things today, myself included, about how to hack on Guix Home service configurations inside of the REPL. So it should be pretty interesting to figure that out. First of all, I'd like to say hello to the people who are here so far. Thanos, Benoit, Cable Car Digital, G-Mem, Lewis. Nice to see you all. Thank you so much for being here. Let me see if everything's going good on the stream. I'm not going to say anything about the stream status or health today, just so I don't, upset any deities of the technical variety. Hello to Ramudo. So, hello to Simo and Mark Owen. Let me just jump into the next screen here. Updates. Why is my... There we go. This upcoming week, well, my plan is for this upcoming week, I'm going to release my first actual introductory video, like real recorded video on Guix Home. I've been preparing for this for a while. I just saw Alejandro's message. Alejandro is watching from a meeting in work. That's very sneaky. I've been preparing to make videos on Guix Home. Today is a stream about Guix Home, but it's not really structured or prepared, so I wouldn't call this, educational content, more just like exploratory hacking. But I am going to start producing a series of videos about Guix Home, like right now, because it's the thing that I'm most interested in at the moment. So I've also been preparing a talk for the FOSDEM conference that's in February. It's a virtual talk, unfortunately. I won't be going there in person, but I'll be doing an intro talk on Guix Home there. But at the same time, I'm sort of working the same material into an actual video for the channel, which will be a little bit different. So I'm hoping that next week that will be out. If not next week, then definitely the week after. But from that point, we're going to go just through like the introductory video on Guix Home. Then we're going to start talking about how to write your own Guix Home service, how to convert your existing .file configuration and possibly even literate org mode configuration over to Guix Home. Like if you want to know how these things map from one to the other, I'll have some guidance on that. And then going further and further into understanding like the internals of Guix, because once you start dealing with Guix Home services and if you spend more time sort of like actually learning about how Guix system configurations work, it's all basically the same thing, and it all boils down to some core concepts like derivations, G expressions, etc. So we'll have some videos on that topic as well, mainly because to be an effective Guix hacker, you kind of need to know these things, especially if you're going to be building more complex package definitions or service definitions. So all good stuff to know. There was also a really interesting blog post that just showed up on the Guix blog this week. So where are we? Wow. Okay, my caps lock binding is not working, and I'm very... 1 second. Let me do this and hope it doesn't break everything. Okay, can I do my control bindings now? Yes. Okay, thank God. All right. Anyway, I was going to show the Guix blog, geeks.gnu.org. Because there's an interesting blog post about derivations. It's actually a series of blog posts that are coming that are going to be about sort of Guix internals. So if you're interested in this topic, you should definitely go check these out. I'll probably be, learning some things to use in my own videos from these posts, which will be useful because I'm not an expert on these things, but my intention is to become one. So that's just something worth pointing out. Maybe I should put a link to that in the notes. Check out this blog post about Guix. There we go. All right, so that's spiel for the videos that are coming out, going to be coming out real soon. Also, I'll remind you again, definitely, if you have not joined the Fediverse yet, by that I mean Mastodon or whatever other ActivityPub implementation out there that you might be interested in using, you can join the Emacs community, the Geeks community, etc. I think everybody, well, I'm not going to say everybody, but the center of gravity has moved from Twitter to Mastodon and ActivityPub for both Emacs and Geeks. So if you want to stay up to date on things, I definitely recommend joining the emacs.ch instance or the fosstodon.org instance. There's many, many other instances out there in the world, but these are the two that I know of. Luis is here right now, who runs the emacs.ch instance, and I've been on fosstodon.org for a few years, so both good instances. And you can follow me at davidwill@fosstodon.org. Highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun there. I've noticed that there's been less activity there recently. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me not posting as much. But I think we should do our part to, stoke the flames and get things moving again. Also, as I mentioned, usually every week, one cool way to support the channel is to buy yourself a copy of the book Mastering Emacs by Mickey Peterson. Mickey did a really nice thing and set up this affiliate link for the channel where if you go purchase a copy of the book Mastering Emacs through this link, masteringemacs.org/r/systemcrafters, a portion of the proceeds of the sale of the book will go to the channel. Mastering Emacs is a very in-depth book giving you lots of information about sort of more deeper topics in Emacs and Emacs configuration, things we haven't covered on this channel yet. And I highly recommend it. I've read it a few years ago, and I know a lot of you have also picked it up and read it. So if you haven't seen it yet, definitely go give it a look. Even check out masteringemacs.org. Mickey's written just a ton of really useful blog posts there. I learned a lot of stuff about eShell from Mickey's blog in the past. So, there's all kinds of stuff you can learn by going to his blog. So definitely a way to support the channel if you're interested. Also, check out the links in the description below for other ways to support the channel. Like I mentioned in the last stream before the end of the year, I'm going to try to make this thing a full-time gig at some point. So if you are interested in seeing more content like this and actually more super in-depth content that probably won't get many clicks on YouTube, but will be very useful, definitely consider supporting the channel. All right, let me see what I missed in the chat. Hello to Colin and Solemn Skater, Eves, Data Monoid, Jean-Baptiste. GMM says, yeah, Mastodon has dropped off a bit, but I'm sticking with it. Yeah, me too. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed this. If you have the Twitter app installed on your phone, have you been getting more random notification spam from Twitter, like popping up tweets from people you don't even follow? Like, hey, look at this tweet. I've been getting a lot of it lately. I feel like they're trying to drag people back, but it's not working. I go into the app every now and then. I just don't really feel like being there. And this is not like a political statement, because people have accused me of being political regarding Twitter. No, it's more like I'd rather just focus my energy and attention in a place where I feel like is more effective for the community we have here. So I'd rather just, use Mastodon instead. So let's get into the actual topic of the stream today, which is hacking Guix Home services in the REPL. We've done this a couple times on the channel so far on live streams where I sort of try to hack around with Guix Home services. I keep spending time on my Guix Home configuration and I never fully get it finished, and then I go away from it for a while because I'm doing other things, and then I end up coming back to it. But every time I come back to it, I learn more and more. I'm trying to get deeper in my knowledge of how to treat my Guix configuration more like code and not just configuration, where I'm actually going into the REPL and using some of the lower level functions that Guix provides to test out some of the behavior that I'm implementing, or packages, etc., that I'm implementing, without having to go run the Guix commands in the shell, like Guix Home reconfigure or Guix system reconfigure, Guix install, etc. So what I want to do today is spend more time actually trying to figure out how to do things in the REPL without having to run shell commands, so that maybe we can find a good development workflow for specifically building Guix Home services, but maybe anything in Guix, because it all just boils down to the same stuff, derivations and G expressions and whatnot. So we can figure out how to experiment with those things without having to run complete reconfigures, then it might have result in a faster development loop for making changes to your configuration, especially if you intend to build home services and contribute those to Guix, which I highly recommend because Guix is a little bit light on home services at the moment, and we all sort of need to chip in and build them if we want to see there be more functionality there. So I'm going to be working on a service today, which is for configuring Emacs, configuring my local Emacs configuration, installation, etc., with a Guix Home service. We've talked about it a couple times, sort of like what my thoughts are on this, but you'll see sort of the direction I'm going in, and then we're going to see if I can build this service using the Geyser package and the REPL, the Guile REPL, and see how far we can get, because I've already got part of it written, but it still needs work, so we'll see how far we can get. Ashra says, I deleted my Twitter account 2 or 3 months ago. I haven't deleted mine, but you know, I just try not to use it that much. Benoit says, what is Twitter? Yes, that's the mindset we should be having here. Okay, so to get things started off, one thing I wanted to point out, which I think I found this from the section of the Guix reference manual. What's it called? The perfect setup. It's actually a really useful part of the manual, and it's changed over the years. I feel like they've added things in here that I didn't see there before. But this can tell you, this part of the manual tells you how to set up Emacs with Guile and Geyser to hack on Guix in general. One of the things that I added in my configuration, which it suggests, is this with eval after load for Geyser Guile. It's basically the Guile integration for Geyser. When that package loads, add your local Guix source path to the Geyser Guile load path. That way it's easier for you to jump to definitions for things in Guix and whatnot. Now, obviously, if you're working on other projects in Guile, you may not want this to happen every time, so you might want to put this in like a dir locals file, but I don't know. I'm just going to throw it into my main configuration and just see what happens. It may be a problem, but Benoit says you can do this as a local var too. Yeah, for sure. You could set this in a local var, but I'm just throwing caution to the wind and putting it directly inside of my dev module. So I think load path, yeah, right here. I'm putting both my .files folder and my projects code Guix folder as part of the Guile load path. Let me check the value of that. Yeah, so it's right. And I've mentioned this before a couple times, but I'll mention it again right now just because it's relevant. The way that I do my Guix Home configuration and just generally my Guix configuration now, something I didn't do before, but I have been doing more recently, is I treat my .files folder as an actual Guile module path for all of the modules for my configuration. So you'll see that in my .files folder, I have this David wheel folder, and it's basically scheme modules in here. So I have my my systems, so all my system definitions. So like the one for this system is here, and you can see that I have both my home environment configuration and my operating system configuration in here. I've got a little thing down here at the bottom that checks an environment variable to decide which one gets exposed. But basically what I'm pointing out here is that this is all just scheme modules. And because I did this thing in my Emacs configuration that adds the .files path to the Geyser Guile load path, as soon as I load up the Geyser REPL, which I can do with Geyser Guile, I think, it's going to start up a REPL, and I can do use package David will utils, I think. Let's see. Oops, use package. I'm writing Emacs code here. Use modules. So now that basically just imported my utils module from my home directory or my .files directory. I realize now that this might be a problem because it's going to go build a whole bunch of stuff. I just cloned the Guix repository fresh, and I have not built it yet. So I'm hoping this is not going to be a total headache. Luckily, I'm not running the stream from the same machine that I'm doing this work on, so it's not going to kill the stream, but it might take some time. But point being is my .files folder is a Guile module path effectively, and we've loaded it into Geyser so that I can just import modules from my own home folder. Same goes for the Guix code. So the whole Guix code base is also being loaded up right now, apparently. I probably should go build that the right way, not like the way it's doing right now. Can I kill this? User interrupt, user interrupt. Stop. I'll just kill the buffer. Bye-bye. Okay. So let me go into... Oh, and by the way, that whole weird issue with the color temperature last week, I don't know why it kept happening, but I had to use this X Gamma program to fix it. If I were to go back now and put like 1.0 Gamma for red, let's try that. I just want to show you. The color gets all wonky again. I think I can see it on the live feed. Yeah. Fun. I'll fix it back. Here we go. Let me check the chat. So Zane says, if you want some inspiration for the service, I submitted the patch a couple of months ago about an Emacs home service, so I'm sure you'll do a better job. Maybe not. I don't know. I haven't seen yours, but if you want to send it to me, I would be happy to look at it. The Guix patches email list gets a little bit backed up. They don't tend to review things so quickly sometimes, depending on what it is. So you may have to go ping people in the Guix IRC chat. Benoit says, if you want to get good performance in REPL, you must compile Guix first. Yes, definitely. So that's what I'm going to go do. I'm going to run bootstrap. Maybe I should do this in vterm and not in each shell, just to make sure we don't go totally off the rails. Vterm. I think it's bootstrap. Whoops. All right, so let's do this the smart way. Guix shell had the right invocation for this. It's like --pure -d Guix, and there was a couple other things I needed. Auto make, auto conf. I hope it's not actually needed, but Data Monoid says, out of curiosity, what makes Guix better than Nix? And Cable Car Digital says Lisp. Yes. Well, Scheme specifically, but yes. Okay, so bootstrap. Here we go. And I'll tell you what I just did. So this Guix shell command, --pure just means it sort of gets rid of all your... Okay, Guix shell, if I haven't explained it already, is basically a way to create a new environment or shell with specific packages or dependencies of packages set up already. --pure wipes your existing environment before starting up the new environment. So it doesn't let your existing environment variables pollute the new environment, which I'm trying to avoid because weird things happen with GCC sometimes. And -d means the next package is going to install the dependencies or the build dependencies of that package, which is useful because we need to build Guix. And then I'm also installing automake and autoconf because I think I had issues with that before. So I'm in this thing. I just ran the bootstrap command. I think I need to run configure now with local state dir equals /var. Let me double check that because I don't want to screw up my configuration. Running Guix before it's installed. Not that one. Building from Git. There we go. So it says -d Guix pure. I don't know if that worked for me. Bootstrap. Yeah, local state dir without dashes. There we go. All right, so we're going to configure it. Now we're going to see how long Guix takes to build on this machine that only has 2 cores instead of the other machines that have more. Kalispera, Alex. Eve says, Nix is very difficult to learn compared to Scheme, but that's like my opinion. Yeah, well, Nix is its own language, so you have to learn a different language. Whereas if you're already someone who is acclimated to using Emacs and using Lisp for a configuration language, using Scheme is very close to the same experience that you have, and a lot of the same sort of ideas and principles like REPL-driven development, etc. apply. So it's a little bit more appropriate for the kind of people that watch this channel, I think. All right, so we configured, I believe I also have to run make. Let's say J4. I've got hyper-threading. Data Monoid says, I personally see Lisp-based languages as writing semi-backwards. Perhaps it's my lack of Lisp usage might be the culprit of this. Well, it depends on what you mean semi-backwards. You're talking about the, what's it called? Prefix notation, where you do like +1 3 instead of 1 + 3. Once you get used to it, it's not so bad. And also, it makes a lot of sense in terms of consistency of the syntax, I prefer it. I also like how Lisp looks whenever you have all the nested expressions and everything is just sort of elegant. That's just me. And Benoit is throwing out an example of having nested expressions where the innermost expression gets evaluated first. Yeah, I just need threading macros to help with that. Unmatched end of environment. What does that mean? So while we wait for this to warm up and build, which may take a while, I hope it doesn't. Let's take a look at what I've done so far with the, the spam bots have showed up. Thanks, Ashraz. Anyway, let's see what I've done so far with the Emacs home service. I've got this, I wouldn't even call it halfway written. I would say maybe it's like 1/3 written. But the idea is relatively simple. Now, it sounds kind of weird to configure Emacs using Guix Home because you would rather just configure Emacs using Emacs Lisp. Well, you're still configuring Emacs with Emacs Lisp. What you're actually doing in the way that I'm setting it up is just composing an init.el file and even an early init.el file from modules of Emacs configuration that you have in your .files folder. So you're not really locking down your configuration as you would other things you might configure with Guix Home. It's more like you're just using Guix Home as a way to put together which modules you need to use on a particular system and then customize certain variables in a repeatable way. It may be overkill, but I don't know. It's worth looking into. So we have the home Emacs service type, which has 2 extensions right now. And service extensions are basically the functionality of the service. So here there's a service extension called home profile service type. And effectively, you just give it a function you define. In my case, it's this home Emacs profile service. And it's kind of a bad name because all the function really does is return the list of packages that you want to install in the user's profile whenever this service gets used. So when someone pulls in this home Emacs service type in their Guix Home configuration, home Emacs profile service would install whatever package list that this function returns. And in this case, I'm pulling it from a configuration, which I'll explain in a minute. So that's what you need to know about that one. And the other service extension right now is the home Emacs file service, or the home file service type, which then says what files get created in the home folder as a result of using the service. And in this case, so far, all I've done is try to create an init.el file in the .config/Emacs folder. So I'm putting it in the default location for any Emacs configuration, and I'm telling it what the content should be. And in this case, I'm saying that it's a mixed text file, which means you just give it a bunch of strings and maybe file-like objects and just puts them together into a file and then puts it in the location where you requested. So this thing actually results in something called a G expression, which is a scheme expression that gets executed by the Guix build daemon. So this code isn't actually, or this task isn't actually run right now in the function when it gets called in my configuration. It actually gets run by the build daemon after all the configuration stuff gets crunched together and then handed over to the build daemon. So that's one kind of different aspect that I'm not fully 100% understanding yet. Not that I'm not understanding it, it's just I haven't gotten the coding patterns fully figured out yet for doing this the right way with more complex files, because it's really easy to make a simple file, just throw some contents in it. You can see how I do that in the xsettingsd service that I have, which I need to submit to the Guix repo. But in this one, I'm calling this plain file generate xsettingsd file, which is not the right way to do this, but it's the way I did it in this case, and it's fine. But basically, it just puts together a string with string append for all the lines of the configuration, and then that gets written out to this configuration file. So it's kind of just like that. You're just assembling a configuration file. And in this case, we're going to be assembling an init.el file based on the configuration that we've defined. So the home Emacs configuration is kind of the next important bit. Let me check on the build status here. Okay. it's going to be going for a while. That's fine. So this is the actual configuration that a user would use to configure this home Emacs service. First of all, the Emacs package, which we're defaulting to the actual Emacs, the default Emacs package of Guix. The reason why you would see a field like this in a configuration is in case you wanted to use a different Emacs package like Emacs Next, or maybe you want to use a package transform to get the very latest commit of Emacs on the Emacs Git repository from the master branch. So useful to have a configuration for this. And this is what you actually see down here in the profile function, where I have this home Emacs configuration package. This is actually a function that gets generated as a result of running this define configuration macro or syntax from the package field. So it just gives you the value of this package field from the configuration object that's being passed in. So next is the list of modules. And to me, this is basically like in a well-organized Emacs configuration, in my opinion, you would have a folder of your own personal configuration modules for Emacs that are split up based on use case. So if you want to see mine, we can go into my emacs.d folder /modules. And I got a whole bunch of EL files here, which are for all the different parts of my configuration. This is different now because like I'm not using literate configuration anymore. I've got it all in plain Emacs Lisp files. I haven't really shown this yet, but this is where it's going. So that dev file we were in before is just a plain old Emacs Lisp file, but this folder gets added to the load path of the Emacs configuration, and then I can require any of these individual modules. So back in the Guix Home config in Emacs.scm, this list of modules actually would be referring to those individual files. But it's more than just referring to one of the files. We also want to refer to maybe like specific configuration variables for those files, and any Guix packages that need to be installed to enable that module to be used. So instead of the Emacs configuration having to somehow produce a list of Guix packages to use, which I was doing before with org mode, literate configuration, I was like producing like a whole Emacs manifest from my org file. In this case, I would have a different configuration for an Emacs module where you would have the name of the module and the list of Emacs Lisp variables to customize. And also, which I haven't done yet, is like the list of packages. So that would be something that you would need to set up for a given module. And I'm thinking about sort of building a layer on top of this where I have like well-known modules that have their own configuration variables, but I haven't gotten that far yet. So Eve says, why no more literate configuration? I just got tired of managing it. So, you know, worth playing around, just seeing how different things work. I might go back to literate at some point in the future. I mean, there's benefits to it, but Ashra says, we probably need a system crafter's fact for questions like that at some point. Yeah, I mean, just to document my decisions on what changes I've made over time, and you know, people can go take a look at it. We talked about it a few times on the channel so far, though. Basically, the fact that I'm kind of tired of literate configs and keeping things up to date. 23% build. So let's see. Then everything else is pretty straightforward. We just have a list of modules and also a list of early modules. So maybe like the list of modules that would get included into the early init.el file. I don't really have anything like that right now, but I might have, or someone else might want to use this home service. So they may have a need for something like that. Then there's also this extra init and extra early init, which are effectively meant to be possible extra content to be inserted at the end of the init files. So if you wanted to just, you know, insert some extra stuff in there, then it would be easy to do. So Bad Boy says, want to ask an out of box question. Don't you feel GUIs are useless? No, they're not useless. I mean, it would be kind of weird if every app was a terminal app, but I don't know. I prefer apps that don't have that much UI, I suppose. So what I would expect an init file to look like is kind of like what my init file looks like at the moment. So if I go to init.el, I've changed this a lot. It's very small now. Basically, all I do is do this little startup hook for the GC, which I probably need to change the way this works. And then this is all GC hook. And then I add my module path to the load path for Emacs Lisp. And then I just require a bunch of packages. And then maybe a couple extra things here that, you know, like maybe one of my systems needs to have the streaming package loaded, which apparently I should change that, but let's just get that out. But the point is that the home service should actually generate this file almost exactly like it is right now. So I might move this GC stuff into a different module, like, you know, dw-init or something, and then just have it all be modules. And then what I would do is that for certain modules that have configuration variables that need to be set before they get loaded, like maybe the core module is setting fonts and font sizes, I would have variables that need to get inserted into the init.el file, so that like maybe here I could do a set q dw font size 32, I don't know, something like that. And the Guix Home service would generate those lines so that all the things get configured on a per system basis. So each of my system configurations can say what they want the fonts to be, what they want the Emacs theme to be, what they want the font sizes to be, and any other like specific things. Also, which modules to be loaded. So for this machine that I'm using mainly for doing streaming and demonstrations, it may have a different set of modules that get installed, because maybe I don't need, you know, development support for a particular language on this machine. But on my main machine that I do work in, I would need to have a different set of modules. So that's sort of the idea. Now, the place where this gets a little bit weird is if I try to reuse the same configuration model on Windows or Mac OS, which don't have Guix, I may have to have like other init.el files sitting around that have this format that I just sort of pull in. But I don't use Windows or Mac OS that often, so it's not really a problem for me, but it might be a problem for other people. Asherat says, GUIs give us videos. Videos give us streams. Streams give us system crafters. Checkmate. All right. 53%. We're making progress. So let's get back to the home service code, and let me think what I can do here. So where I left off is, I think I was trying to do the serialized configuration part of this init.el file. So Emacs configuration extra init. Yes. So the way this is all going to work is this text file will just insert a bunch of extra stuff, or a bunch of things that get compiled together. So in this case, it would first put in the extra init part. So this, whatever's in here, if someone puts multiple strings in that want to insert, or maybe like a reference to a file on the machine, that will get pulled in here. And then there's the serialized configuration part, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then I just got this like extra line just to make sure that things are working. We'll take that out after we do know that it's working. So serialized configuration is not actually defined here. It's actually defined in the GNU services configuration module, which is where service configuration logic lives. And it's interesting how this all works, where serialized configuration is trying to look at the details of the configuration object that gets passed into it. So we've defined this configuration object here. What this actually does is it defines a few different things sort of behind the scenes. It defines a variable that has the list of all the fields for this configuration type. It also defines some information about how certain fields get serialized. And it creates a record type where you can use, or that you can use for gathering the values of the fields, like this home Emacs configuration package function, etc. So whenever you run serialized configuration, it's looking at that sort of behind the scenes information about the configuration type and trying to pull out serializers. So for some things, it knows how to serialize them already, like a package. Actually, I probably would need to tell it to skip that one, and there's a way to do that. I'll have to look it up when we get to it in a minute, but it is possible. Nice, it's almost done. And then also we see here there is this serialized Emacs module. So for a given field, you can specify what the serialization function is going to be, and it will complain at you when it tries to serialize something and it doesn't have a function. So you'll see an error early in the process. But I've defined this function serialized Emacs modules, and it actually returns a G expression. And it's kind of freaky, the syntax, and I'm not like an expert on this yet, but I'm sort of just taking bits and pieces I've seen elsewhere to try to put these things together. Effectively, this just says this is an expression that's going to be run in the build server and not on this machine here. So we're sort of compiling up the expression that will be executed later. So we need to work on this. This may not actually be accurate. Let's see. Zane says, what are the benefits of serialization? I've been skipping on defining it using the no serialization macros. Yeah. The only thing... I don't know. I've wondered the same thing. But I feel like if this is how packages are written, like correct packages are written, there must be a reason for it. I think it goes down to what information is stored in the derivations. So that things can be built or rebuilt correctly without you having to like redo the whole config. But I don't know. I'm not exactly sure the reason on that. It would be nice to ask somebody who's more of a Guix expert. But since this seems to be the right way to do it, this is what I want to do. So I'm going to try to do that. But like you saw before in this other xsettingsd service, I'm not doing that. I'm just like sort of putting it all together myself as a string and then just writing it out to a file as a G expression. So I'm trying to learn some things here also. So we have serialized Emacs modules. I think I just copied and pasted this other function. This is not right, but the idea is that when we serialize the Emacs modules list, for each module, we should write out the variables that are needed to configure that module and then the require statement. So whenever we have the ability to start playing around with this in a second, when this is done building, then we will, Benoit has a good point actually. We will be able to try this and see what it actually looks like. We could try it in the REPL. So Benoit says, does serialization enable pushing to remote daemons? That's probably true. Actually, the other thing is that it depends on what the target system is, because Guix packages have different inputs and outputs or build configurations per target. So if you're on an x86-64 machine, but you're trying to like build something on an AMD 64 machine, or ARM 64, ARM. If you're trying to build something on a different machine architecture, then Guix has to do some work to translate the build to that architecture. And I think that if you're using actual G expressions, it can resolve the packages more correctly. If you don't use G expressions, then it can't do that. I also think that it can pull details out of packages. If I go to my desktop, or maybe it's the Pipewire one. Yeah, so in these G expressions, you can do things like file append, and then the package name, Pipewire03, and then a path. And what this does is it will give you the file path where this Pipewire 0.3 package has been compiled or built into the GNU store, so that you can hard code a path to the store whenever this Shepherd service gets created. So Benoit says, G expression also has dependency closures. Hello, Andrew. Nice to see you. For those of you who want a more complete Guix Home system to try out, definitely check out Andrew's RDE package, which actually just had maybe it was like the first like public release this week, right, Andrew? Source Hut ABCDW RDE. I think that's gonna find it, isn't it? Yeah, so check out RDE if you want to see a much more complex Guix Home configuration. There's a lot you can learn from this. I've stolen some things from it. The thing that you just saw from the Pipewire config came from RDE, so thank you, Andrew. But point being, using G expressions is the right way to do it because it gives you magical powers that I'm not fully up on yet, but I feel like this is what we're going to try to do for the service. Hey, Elijah. Yeah, I was really happy to see that RD actually had a public release because, you know, it's been a long time in the making, and it seems like a lot of work has gone into making it useful for more people than just Andrew. So nice to see. Didamano says, is the audio low or are my headphones tripping? I don't know. Let me know if it's too low. Benoit says, the best crafters steal stuff from others. Yes, so long as we all use the right licenses. All right, let me check the build. Hey, it's done finally. Okay, so now I should be able to pull up a REPL, Guys or Guile. And let me try to import that package again and see if it chokes on it. Okay, so this time it went through completely done because we've already pre-compiled all of the Guix stuff. So good. Now we can get to the actual work of this. Give me 1 second. So let's do a couple things here. First of all, let's go back into the Emacs.scm file. I want to just like, you know, play around with this a little bit. So, serialize Emacs modules. Well, first of all, let's see what we can start trying at the REPL so we can do this. Maybe I can use geyser eval buffer. Source expression failed to match any pattern. I probably put something in that's wrong. It doesn't like the module configuration. I might have had a problem with that before. So let me just comment that out for now. And we'll comment out these two lines also just to get things started up. So let's try to eval the buffer again. And unbound variable home Emacs module configuration. Yeah, get rid of that too. What's the key binding for this? Control C, Control B. Serialize Boolean, possibly unbound value. Where's val? I swear I had a... Probably I'm like halfway through building this. So we will serialize field. I think serialize Boolean would be fine. So this is actually trying to serialize a scheme value over to an Emacs list value for the purpose of converting a hash t or hash f to a t or nil. So here's what we're going to do. If val, then return t, otherwise return nil, right? I think that should do it. Now I will eval the buffer again, possibly unbound variable val. Where did I use that? Oh, here, right there, value. Helpful already, right? Okay, so now I think it actually completed because you see an arrow to unspecified. So I think it did actually evaluate the file. And what we can do is go put our cursor over a function, like I'm putting it over that serialized Emacs modules, and you can see down here in the echo area that it's actually been evaluated, and it shows up as, you know, qualified by the module path, serialized Emacs modules, field name value. Hey, Emily. So we have our code loaded up here, which is nice. Now, let me see if I can get these things pulled back in. I don't know exactly what's going on with these, but I can try to be more surgical and do Control-Alt-X. Okay, same problem. Source expression failed to match any pattern in form. I wonder if it doesn't like list of packages. Let me put that back to just package. I don't know if I can do that. Take packages out. Probably something else I'm doing here. Debugger exited. I think that's a sign that it actually did evaluate. So something is weird about... Whoa, what just happened? Oh, let me turn on KeyCast tab bar mode. There we go. Now you can see what I'm doing. So, I'm going to pull this back out again. Let's take a look at what I did for this one. Package Emacs. I probably need to put a description string. Okay, so Guix packages that this Emacs module depends on. So run it again. This time it seems to work. And now I can say list of package. I doubt that actually exists. Yeah. List of package unbound variable. Another thing to point out here is that this define configuration macro plays with the names of things a little bit. Right here, I'm putting list of package as the type of the field packages. And what it actually does is looks for a function or predicate function called list of package with a question mark at the end. So this stuff isn't really documented that well, I think. I've had to figure this out sort of by trial and error, but just keep in mind that when you say that there's a certain type of a field, it's going to be trying to find functions that share that same name. So worth keeping in mind. So list of packages unbound variable. Well, we can fix that by defining a list of packages function. Whoa, packages. And then this is going to be list of package question mark. This should work. So I will run that one and then run that again. Let's see, list of package. Oops, list of package. Now, maybe I should have an S. Okay, serialized list of packages. So this is another one of the magic things that it's looking for. When you say that you have a type list of packages, it's going to look for a serialized list of packages. Now, as I'm saying this, I'm realizing that I don't actually want to serialize a list of packages, so we need to tell it not to try to serialize the package list for a module configuration. Now, I need to figure out how to disable serialization for an individual field. Let's go to that configuration module. Can I do this? Let's go over here to the cursor. Geyser definition. No, let's say xref definition. Find definitions. Nope. Okay. Is there another way to do that? Geyser module. Edit module. GNU services configuration. Okay, let's show that one again. Geyser edit module is the command. Control-C, Control-E, return. Control-C, Control-E, return. Guix configuration. Nope. It's GNU configuration. Right here. And then I'll accept the variables. And now we're in that module. So that's pretty useful, right? Now, let's take a look at no serialization. What does no serialization do? I think it must just throw in no serialization. Okay. So let's try that. Maybe I can say for the packages field, list of packages. Is that right? No. No serialization. And this is a value or variable. So maybe if I eval this. Okay, so that worked. Now it doesn't try to look at it as a field that needs to be serialized, so it just leaves it alone. It doesn't try to find a serialization command, which is good. So the only thing we really care about is the module name and the variables. And excuse me, and that's easier to manage. Serialize Emacs vars. I wonder if this is the best way to do this, because we're sort of abusing a configuration object when maybe a different one is more appropriate here, but let's give it a shot this way. I think I probably want to move this down too, because if it's going to serialize these fields in order, I want it to serialize the variables first and then the module name. So here's what we'll do. We'll add a serialization function for define serialized module name. I think it's field name and value. And I'm going to use the format function because I don't know. I should probably just use it, or type it. value. So this is it's going to be a plain old require here. So we're just going to say require, and then, hey, why don't you take away my, there we go. That should work, I think. But, you know, the best way to be able to check it is to use the REPL, right? So here we go. I'm going to eval that function. Geyser eval. Is there a way I can just like type an expression? I guess if I go to the REPL, right? Serialize module name. Field name foo. The module is DW core. And then we get require DW core. So we can see that it will return the right line. Let me get out of some of these debugger backtrace prompts. Probably want to add a new line there too. I don't know how much it's necessary. Okay, so now we got this function. And here I can use serialize module name. I can eval this whole thing again with Control-Alt-X. So now, the only thing we need to have is serialize Emacs vars. I could probably leave that off for a moment and just try it without that. So, module name. So for serialize Emacs modules, probably, I wonder how you would do that with a G expression. Maybe you don't need to. We'll deal with that in a minute. Jeff says format can use tilde percentage for percent sign for new line. Hey, see you, Ashraz. Thanks a lot for being here, and thanks for dealing with the spammer. Jeff, by the way, I'm sorry I didn't reply to your email. I've been like working nonstop for job stuff this week, and I have not gotten back around to it yet. But now I will, because I finished that stuff. So tomorrow I'm going to read your email. Okay. So what I was trying to figure out is when I have a list of these module configurations, how do I get them to be serialized? I need to go here and put in a serialization function, potentially. List of Emacs modules. I think I have, what is it? Let's just call it serialize Emacs modules. Put it right here. Okay. So now we have, let's see, list of Emacs modules. I need to go and open this up again and eval that, and then eval this, and we're good. We get out of this error buffer here. So we have our Emacs home configuration object. Let me actually, how do we do that? Guile enter module. Enter. There's a way to get into a module so I can take a look at stuff. Actually, maybe Geyser can do that for me. Geyser enter. No. Module. REPL switch to module. Okay. So I want to switch to the Davey Will Home Services Emacs module. Now in the REPL, I'm in that module, and I can do things like home Emacs service. What is it? Home Emacs configuration. I can tab complete. Now you can see there's home Emacs configuration. Source expression failed to match, blah, blah, blah. That looks like a syntax, so it's not... Great. Okay, Control-C, Control-Z. Let's do that again. Control-C, Control-B to eval the buffer. What did you not like? Read error while reading argument form of Geyser eval. Geyser eval buffer. That's what I ran, right? I don't know what I upset it with. I'll take this back out for a second. Eval buffer. Unknown object. So it doesn't like the G expression syntax somewhere. I must have messed it up. Let me do this. Line 404. Well, I don't have a line 404. I don't know exactly what it's complaining about. Daniel says, you seem to really love Lisp. Well, I love Scheme. You know, Lisp in general, yeah, great. But Scheme in particular. Okay, so I'm reevaluating these things here and there just to see which things it doesn't like. What about this function? Okay, so this function it doesn't like. Can I get rid of that? Serialize Emacs bars. Yeah, let's get rid of that for a second. Okay, I think it, yeah, okay, it evaled the buffer that time. Now let's go back and do what we just did. Switch to module Emacs. I know what I did wrong last time. Home Emacs configuration. So I did comma Q because I thought I was in an error, but I'm not in an error because this is a syntax error which doesn't create a subprompt. So I did comma Q and it killed the REPL. So I won't do that again. So home Emacs configuration appears to be a syntax that gets defined by define configuration, which is fine. I think it probably does some nice things. What else? Home Emacs configuration question mark. Well, that one makes sense. Obviously, you need to have a predicate function that can tell you if you're looking at one of the configuration. Home Emacs configuration fields. If I evaluate that, we see that it's like a list of configuration field records that gives you a lot of information about all the fields, which is what I was saying before. When you use define configuration, it's creating this variable behind the scenes so that the other code in Guix, the other syntaxes in Guix can get access to the list of fields easily. And you can too with your own code, so something worth knowing. Then there are the accessor functions for extra init, package, and extra early init. And then there's also the source location thing, which apparently is a procedure which takes something that's S. I don't know what that means, but I'm assuming that it gives you the source location of the Emacs configuration. I don't know. I would have to look into it. Hello to Fikri. Bono says, what do you think of Clojure compared to Scheme? I think Clojure is in a different class than your typical Lisp because it's meant to be a pure functional, more or less, programming language that uses persistent or immutable data structures by default, which is not the case in Scheme. Scheme is mostly functional, but you have mutability at your disposal, and even like const pairs for lists are mutable by default. You know, vectors are mutable by default. So it's a different programming model, and Clojure definitely is good for like data processing, I would say. You know, like writing web services and data processing backends, etc. I really like a lot of things about Clojure. I just don't like that it's kind of, you know, beholden to the JVM, which is not really 100%, but I don't know. That's kind of a dumb thing on my part. I just like Scheme. I just feel like Scheme is really elegant. Clojure obviously is elegant too, but Scheme just has something different about it to me. It's not just because I wrote a compiler. Andrew says, I would say Clojure is very elegant and more expressive and data-oriented than Scheme. It's definitely elegant in the way that you can express some things. It has a lot more sort of built-in features. Like, say, for instance, if you want to access a key out of a map, you can actually use the key name as sort of like a function as an accessor. So there's things like that that make it really nice to write Clojure sometimes. But I feel like you can do a lot of that in Scheme if you have the right libraries. Scheme is sort of minimal by default, and it's whatever you make of it. So Scheme could be like Clojure if someone was motivated to build the right syntaxes and, you know, data structures and whatnot for it. All right. So that's everything that we wanted to see from the home Emacs configuration object. So back to the business of what we were doing before. I wanted to get this, well, not variables. I want to get the module serialization thing working. So we have modules here. And we're calling into this serialize Emacs modules. And I need to, yeah, okay. That function is there. I can eval this home Emacs configuration again, and it seems to be okay with that. Now, one thing I want to do is try to see what the actual output of serializing this home Emacs configuration would be. Obviously, we have that serialize configuration function. So if I were to use that, serialize configuration, home Emacs configuration. What do we do for the package up here? So we'll just try it out and see what happens. And I think I have in the, yeah, let me grab this just to see what it does. I'm going to paste it in here. That balanced? Okay. Let me drop this down to another line. And then, okay. So let me try to eval this, see what happens. Okay, it's possibly wrong number of arguments to serialize configuration. Let me check on that then. I go back to emacs.scm, put my cursor on serialize configuration, config and fields. Okay, so it seems that you do need to pass in a field list, which is good because sometimes you want to filter them down based on what fields are relevant for serialization. So I can say, where am I? Right here. Hey, now. Wow, I think I was in there. So if I, well, you know, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go into the scratch buffer. I'm going to paste this in, and then I'm going to turn this into a scheme mode buffer. I wonder if it will let me. Okay. Raise exception. Guix REPL set. Is there not a way to associate a buffer with a particular, whatever. Here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna put it back in the same buffer again and just play with it here. Why not? Okay, so we'll go into serialized configuration. We're gonna say home Emacs configuration fields. And then we're gonna run it. Same thing. So in procedure raise exception, format a message. Okay. Invalid value S for field A. Okay, I messed up right here. No, not there. Right here. There we go. Let's fix that. Then we can go back to this and run it again. Arguments F packages. Okay. Can't be that, right? Andrew says, if you haven't seen it yet, there are a few home Emacs implementation drafts on Guix patches and one more implementation in the RDE repo. Yeah, I've looked at the one in the RDE repo for sure. But I haven't seen the ones that are have been proposed already. So I'm glad that someone's working on it. Hey, Emmanuel. Nice to see you. Oh, Jeff is telling me some things about Guix. Guix REPL is always from the perspective of the buffer it's watching. Yeah. So Control-C, Control-Z will switch between the module you are editing and the REPL in the same, will be in the same context. Control-C, Control-Z. What if I go to X settings D, Control-C, Control-Z? Okay, maybe it just goes to the same buffer. That's fine. Useful though. So, doesn't like one of the things that I'm doing. Let me just take a closer look. Serialize Emacs modules. That one doesn't do anything. Maybe this one. Let's just... It's interesting. The configuration thing, filter. There's like filters, something for filtering fields. I don't want to look at all the PO files. Okay, filter configuration fields. There we are. That looks like exactly what we're looking for. So filter configuration fields, shell profile configuration fields. I'm just going to nick that and then put it right here in this. Oh, what did I just do? Okay, and let's get rid of the home configuration fields. Dev says Control U, Control C, Control Z will synchronize when you switch to a different buffer. That's cool. That would be useful. All right, so what we want to do here is Emacs, home Emacs configuration fields, and then we want the list to be modules, extra init, extra early init. So put that here, modules, extra init, extra early init. Still complaining. Oh, I screwed that up. This needs to be... No. Okay. Still the same problem. So configuration and a filter field list. Let's actually look at this. What does this give me? Debugger exited. Okay, you didn't tell me anything about it though. I'll put that in the REPL. Okay. Modules. Yeah, okay. So it does seem like it filtered that list correctly. And home Emacs module configuration. I wonder if somehow it's just choking on... Wow, what did I do? Hey, thanks a lot for showing up, Andrew. Definitely, we should do a stream. I've been meaning to send you an email about that, but we should definitely do a stream at some point in the near future. And a call too, obviously, but you know we talked about it in the past, but a stream would be good. Okay. So the module list could be the issue. Serialize Emacs modules, but what I'm doing right now is effectively nothing. I don't have any format on that. So it shouldn't serialize a module name. I mean, this could be something, but I'm not using it anywhere at the moment. So let me try this again. Serialize configuration. Formatted message. This is a problem where it doesn't tell you exactly where the problem is coming from. I have this issue fairly often in hacking on Geek stuff where the messages just end up being completely useless. And I think it's because of syntaxes. F packages. Someone's calling that on packages. Who's got packages? It's this one. Home Emacs module configuration. How about I just take this out? Somehow it's choking on that. Let's try that again. Nope. Oh, invalid value. Okay, finally we have something that's a little bit more like what we're looking for. Invalid value tilde S for field A. Maybe that was right to begin with. Did I reevaluate that function? Probably not. Manuel says, what's happening right now? I'm confused. Well, I'm confused too. Now what we're doing is we're developing some We're developing a Guix Home service interactively with the REPL. I'm trying to figure out why this configuration object is not letting me serialize it just to see what the output would be. Home Emacs module configuration modules. Invalid value S for field A. Is it possible that I need to get rid of that for now? Wrong type argument foo. Oh, okay. That actually looks right, because this should be a list, I believe. Text config, so let me make this into a list. Maybe we'll see something after I do this. Okay, so debugger exited, so it must have done something. Can you not give me the output? Geyser. Okay, so it results in a G expression, which is good because a lot of these things are going to return their own G expressions, and they all need to be composed together. Jeff says, if you scroll down that error buffer, there was a line that said the evaluated expression was. Okay. Yeah, it says what it is, but it doesn't give me any details about where the error was in the expression. So, so we have a G expression. What can we do with that? So what if I save this into a variable? So define G. All right, so we got a G expression here. G expression to file. I'm curious what that does. Let's see. Xref find definitions. Geyser. Is that meta dot? No. Well, I know that I can go into, let's see, Geyser, edit, module, Guix G expression. So let's check out this module. So define G expression. Let's see. Outputs, G expression to S expression. That's kind of interesting. Let's look at that. Does it give me that? I'll probably have to do this. Use modules, Guix G expression. G expression to S expression. Oh, it's probably not even exported. All right, return an executable script name that runs expression using Guile. Well, let's see what that does. See you, Colin. And then G. Okay, so it returns a procedure. That's interesting. So it's like a closure. And it takes a state as function. I think that's actually a connection to the store. Well, let's see. I'm curious what this is going to do. So I think I could do define state open dash connection. Okay, so where is open connection? Open connection. I think, is it like Geek Store? GNU Store? Whoops, store. Geeks. Okay, well, let's try that. Use modules, Geeks. There we are. And now with this function that gets returned here, I can execute that with the state. And now what it tells me is that it created the derivation and it created an output file. So let's take a look at what that output file has in it. That's kind of interesting. So I will just paste that in. Nothing. Okay, let's do this then. Let's take the DRV file. File not found. Hold on. Oh, test.sh.drv. Okay. sh.drv. File not found. Hello, Gabriel. Oh, thank you, Elijah. That's awesome. You want to comma build that derivation with the monad REPL. It won't exist yet. Okay, so comma build what, the G expression script? Let's try that. Wrong argument in position 1. Expecting struct. Computed file. Oh, that's cool. Okay, where did that come from in the manual? Because I haven't seen that yet. Guix extends the Guile REPL with additional commands for convenience. Okay, so comma build is super, super useful. You have to use Guix monad REPL first. Let's give it a shot. Use. I've never seen that command either before, so that's cool. Guix monad REPL. Once again, complaining. Oh, and you want to use scheme file for this? For the okay, okay. Yep. So scheme file. I'm curious about that one. Scheme file G. Oh, I probably have to put a file name. Okay, I see. All right, so test .sem. All right, so that's a G expression. What if I do build? Ooh. So this is something that I've been meaning to figure out. Oh. Okay, so string append. String append, begin, use modules. Let me just clean this up a little bit. Oh, it's read only. Read only. I can't change that, can I? Cool. Let me see if I can drop this down. With fluids, which sounds gross, but fluids are basically like dynamic scope variables. Okay. So, that's not a string though. Cool. With input from file and just a string. That's not right though. Yeah. So it's treating foo like a file. So I think I'm doing something wrong there. Where am I? I'm back in here, text config. So if I were to go back into this place, text config, let me see. Yeah, additional text blocks. Can that just be regular text? It can't be, right? Maybe text config. Define maybe text config. Serialized text config. Serialized text config. There we are. With input from file. So definitely is not the right thing. So I think what I want is something different for those. Text config, list of file like. Well, file like is right. Because they say in the manual that file like is either text or an actual path to a file. Okay, anyway. Let me get back to what we were doing before. So in Emacs.scm, basically what we wanted to do is to see if anything can be written out as a result of this, and we found the answer is yes. So let me write down some stuff about what we've done so far. Notes. You can build a G expression in the REPL by running the following command. Build theme file test.scm my G expression output. I don't know. So that seems to work. You get to see what the actual scheme code is that's going to be given to the build daemon, which is good. But I don't think this is going to work. What else did I put in that config? Is it because I have a list here? It's supposed to be a list, right? Let me check out the manual. It does mention configuration somewhere. Whoa, it's the Guile manual. I want to be. Go up here. Configuration. Using the configuration system? Is that right? No. I think I maybe need to go to the index. Wow. Index. File like objects. There we are in G expressions. So it says the local file, plain file, computed file, program file, and scheme file procedures below return file like object. So apparently I need to actually use a file like object and not just have a string there directly. So maybe that's the key to this is a plain file. I think I'm just sort of giving it something to, let's see, what am I using? Mixed text file. Return an object representing store file name containing text. Text is a sequence of strings and file like objects as in. Okay. So for my file like objects, what I did wrong probably this is not the right place for this. Like actually calling serialized configuration here. But aside from that, file like expands the concatenation of object and suffix, okay. With imported modules, or it can be a module name followed by an arrow followed by a file like object. That's interesting. Yeah, here's where we started. So plain file name content, returning an object representing a text file called name with the given content, a string or byte vector to be added to the store. Well, let's try that. Not exactly what I want to put in there, but what can we do? So Zane says, what is the difference between the manual you are on currently and the Devel Geeks manual? I've had more success using the later manual. So the development manual tracks what's in the master branch of Geeks, but since they just shipped 1.4.0, the normal stable manual is pretty much up to date because, you know, the release happened like 2 weeks ago. But usually if you're doing like development against the latest Geek stuff, you should be looking at the development manual for sure. All right, so I wanted to change my test configuration here. This is not going to be foo now. This is going to be plain file extra init. This is really ugly. I wouldn't want to have to do this as a consumer of this service. So probably there's a better way to do it. I'll have to think about that. Maybe it's a serialization function, actually. Like if I just have a list of strings, then the serialize function can turn that into a list of plain files in a G expression. Maybe. So let me try what that looks like. I can try to do a define test expr. I don't know. Test. I don't know. Drop this down. And then I'll evaluate that. And then I'll go back here. Let's just get out of these subprompts. And then type build test expression. Okay. So G in... Oh, I need to do the scheme... There we go. Now I can check the output of this. Okay, so this is a bit different now. We have with input from file and then this whole GNU / blah, 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 which is probably what we want. It's storing that string as another file in the GNU store. That's not what I wanted. Yeah, so it's got that foo string, that commented foo string here. So that seems to be the right way to do it. And I think me as a home service author, I would not want my users to have to put in these plain file bits. I mean, the one place where it could be useful, to be honest, is if you had another local file that you wanted to include with your early init. So maybe you had like an extra, like an early init file in your dot files and you want to pull that in, then you could store that in the GNU store by using local file, I think, local-file. Yeah, and then you pull in a local file path. Data mono, it says, what does backtick and single quote mean in Lisp? Single quote means that the expression following the single quote gets turned into a literal data object, not code. It doesn't get evaluated as code, it gets evaluated as data. And the backtick is sort of like a templating thing for expressions where you can execute sub expressions and then put their value into the data expression that gets returned as a result. It's kind of difficult to explain in a very short way, but this is kind of a key feature of Lisps. Okay, so if I were to do this mixed text file, I think I could actually, let's try that. Maybe I could use that in the shell. How about we do that? Config unbound variable. That makes sense. So if I store the configuration and pass it directly into home Emacs configuration extra init, blah, blah, blah. Let's try that. Let's take this config. Let's see. Define test config, paste that in, eval that. Now, if I paste, wait, yeah, that's not what I want to do. Let's go back up here. We're going to grab this mixed text file and build, but also we're going to change this to test-config and also this to test-config. In fact, actually, this should go away because serialized configuration now should take care of it. Shouldn't it? Let's see. All right. Wrong number of arguments to serialized configuration. Ah. Okay, so I need to go and copy this whole thing here. Where is my mixed text file thing? I should probably just hold on to this to make it easier to get to. See, Emmanuel, I'll be making a lot of videos on this stuff, so it will help you to understand things. Because I know that watching this in a stream is not very useful, but it will all make sense soonish. Especially now that I'm learning more things. So, serialized configuration, we need to steal this whole filter configuration fields bit and drop it in right there. And maybe actually clean this up a little bit. Okay. Now I got this mixed text file. Let me drop down here once more. I probably don't even need. Well, no, we do need this. Okay, let's try it this way. We will paste in. Gotta copy it once more. Here we go. Copy that. Jump back down. Paste. Oh, did something. Cool. All right, so now I'm going to take a look at this init.el file. Okay, so the foo came from the early init, and the message came from just the string that I put right here, the it works. That's a good sign. I think it means we're getting somewhere. And the nice thing is we can actually check the output of what this file is going to be in practice without having to run the full commands at the command line, which is exactly what I wanted. So let's see. I want to fix the issue with modules. So the test config, let's put this down below right here. Define init el file. I can get rid of this whole part. So I have my test config. I want to bring back in the modules section and see if that works now, because it didn't before. Okay, so I think that the modules field definition is upset for some reason. I don't know if it has to do with a serialization function somehow. Serialize Emacs modules, it wouldn't be calling that. There must be something else that it doesn't like. Wait. There we go. Okay. Module name as a string. It only has module name right now. Okay. Serialized module name, field name. And what was the error that it gave me again? That made no sense. Home Emacs configuration. You know, one thing I didn't do correctly here was create a list of modules. Can't imagine that would be the problem. Oh, that was a problem. That's not a good error message for the problem that I created here. So now it's right because I have the module list. Let's see what happens if I go back up to serialize Emacs modules. Let's just say foo, but I think we need to do a plain file. There's also this string append thing, so maybe in fact, let's try this. String append. Let's see, write module. I'm curious to see if this works. So we got this function. I'm going to eval it. And then Let's run the test config. Now if I go back into the console, let's see, test config. This is going to do us a mixed text file. Okay, so it gave us the output. I would love it if I could just like pull it up immediately without having to copy and paste the file path. Okay, so it didn't pull in the extra stuff that I wanted. I wonder why not. So if I see, I've got the list of module configurations. We have the modules field defined here that has the serialize Emacs modules function. Serialize Emacs modules returns a G expression that would produce a string. Yeah, so this string append expression is expanded to a G expression. That's cool. So why does it not show up in the output then? Maybe I missed something else that's important. Oh. Let's do this. We're going to say build init el file. Okay, now it's doing something. Okay, write modules. So it did actually show up in this one. So let's go from there. Now that we have that, we could... I wonder if I could do a map. I guess the easiest way to find out is to do this. So I'm going to map over values. I'm going to use a lambda function. And the input would be a module. I suppose all I need is just a define serialize Emacs module function. And then this would just be serialize Emacs module value. So we have a G expression. We want it to be a list of G expressions. So I wonder if I need to do something special here. Yes, Gabriel's asking, is the hash tilde the splice operator in Guile? And Zane says, it's the G expression syntactic form in Guix. That's correct. So basically, it's a special syntax that turns whatever expression is here into a G expression, which is something that just gets transported over to the Guix build daemon. So if I look at this a little bit more closely, we have string append, set q, and this seems to be a splice of a map. I'm guessing that's a splice. Let me check the manual. So what about splice? All right, maybe I'll look for the syntax. What was that again? It's hash $at. Wow, it looks like a curse word. Hash $at. There we are. So G expression, un-G expression, and un-G expression splicing. Okay. So I saw an example of a hash dollar right here. So make dir output, change dir output. So it's almost like you're unwrapping the G expression to be put into another G expression. So that does sort of make sense. So in this case, it looks like I need to do this in my map right here. Sounds like generics or genetics. Yes, it sounds like genetics. We're talking about splicing here. Is it like a begin? That could be right. So let's try that. Seems a little freaky, but I have a feeling this is probably the way to do this. So if serialize Emacs module returns a bunch of G expressions, like for instance, this string append, well, it's actually format. I want format. We have serialize module name somewhere. Let's just do that. Serialize module name. And then we're going to use Home Emacs configuration module. Is that what it was? Home Emacs module configuration module name. I need to fix that because it's really awful. Module. Zane says, this flew over my head the first time. Anyone interested in learning more should check out Andrew Tropin's video on G expressions. I learned a lot about it there. Thank you. I should look at it too. I've seen it around. I just haven't watched it yet. So definitely, that's a good place to look. If you don't know, it's youtube.com/Tropin, I think. Before you continue to YouTube, reject. Probably not right. YouTube, Andrew Tropin. There we go. Okay, he doesn't have a fancy name on his channel, apparently. But there is a G expressions video somewhere in his channel. I've seen it. But there's a lot of Geeks information in Andrew's channel, so definitely check out his channel if you want to learn some more things about Geeks. Also, subscribe to his channel. Okay, back to it. We're almost out of time, but I think we're making good progress here. I mean, I feel like we're going to see some things happen in a moment. So we got serialized module name. That's just running format. I mean, that would give me the name. Serialize module name. This is kind of a dumb way to do it. How about I just copy it in for now? Boot that out. We're going to need to do this as well. Okay. Fire A. Serialize Emacs module. This should do the Emacs modules. And if I go back to my configuration, it'll be interesting to see what this does, but I've already overridden the serialization of that config. Okay, we're gonna reeval test config. We're gonna reeval our init.el file. Then we're gonna go back into the prompt and then run that build command again. Needs to be updating. Okay, so we got a little bit of an error here. Store protocol error, build of drive failed. You don't give me a build. Okay, build log. Here we go. At least we get the build log. So we can just open up this drv.gz file. Okay, resolve variable, unbound variable, home Emacs configuration, module name. What did I call it? Module name. Home Emacs module configuration module name. So let me also go home Emacs module configuration module name. It's a valid function. Hey Gavin, nice to see you. Happy New Year. So it pretends it doesn't know what that function is. And this code is all being run inside the build daemon. So it's not being run by my own Guile session, so it may not be able to resolve that function, which makes sense. So actually, I think what I need to do here. Haha. Yes, you can open them directly. So, I think it's because I'm calling this directly, like inside this thing. So I need to do an unsplicing. So gx, oh, it's ungx, man, dude. Ungxp. introduce a reference to object. You may have one of the supported types. Okay, this is nice. If object is a list, it is traversed and references to supported objects are substituted. If object is another kind of object, it is inserted as is. So that's what we want right there. Okay, I think that's the mistake. What if I do this again? Okay, let me reevaluate because I don't know if this actually is needed. It could be though. All right, so that succeeded. Let's just give this a little look. Cool. So it has required DW core there. So if I were to go back in my configuration and say I wanted some more modules, which this is kind of verbose, but it's not that bad. Okay, so I'll have DW dev and then DW streaming. So I'll eval this mixed text file. So what I'm realizing now about this this whole mixed text file part is when you run this mixed text file, it's encoding all the stuff that you've given as parameters into a G expression. And if you change anything like the configuration object or anything else, I think you have to reevaluate your mixed text file because it has to update that G expression before you run it again. So that's why I'm going to have to go re-eval that. All right, now let's take a look at this one and see if it has the rest of our stuff in it. Oh, it only has one of them. That's interesting. So why would I only pick the last of the list? Is it something I'm doing wrong in my map function? Map. I probably don't want to begin here. This is probably wrong. Produces a reference to the native build. I feel like it says if object is a list, it is traversed and references to supported objects, or if supported objects are substituted similarly. Let's try this instead. I don't know if this is the right way. Don't do that. Hash dollar. I have a feeling that this may be possibly unbound variable un-G expression. So maybe I need to go, that's not right. Oh, G expression. Interesting. So I got to go and pull in this other module. And we'll go here and use gexp exp. Huh? Oh, that's wrong. What module is this? I would have thought it was in Guix gexp. Is it not in there? Use Guix exp. Un-G-exp. Unbound variable. What? How do the others work? And am I not using that already? Oh, you know what? It's because I'm not in a G expression. I see. Okay, it's contextual. My mistake. So then I can't just flat out pull this out. Do I have to do this? This seems like wrong syntax, but we'll see. That seems really wrong. What don't you like? Did I? Oh, the wrong order of the symbols. I think. Okay, so that's okay now. Let's try to build that again. No, it didn't change anything. So I need to go reeval the text file. No. Okay, so it doesn't think anything's changed. So let me just try this one more time. Come on. Hello. Can you give me the history? Thank you. I think I already had that file opened. 8SG. Yeah. Let's see. Wonder actually. So our runtime objects refers to native builds of objects listed in list. Well, let's try did I actually evaluate that correctly? Is that why I didn't do anything? Okay, what if I do this instead? Sort of grasping at straws here. Okay, so let's go back and reeval the init file. Doesn't think anything has changed. Maybe I need to... It doesn't think anything's changed because... Probably the hash of the G expression or something isn't different. What if I just delete that? Wow. What if I delete the string off the end? Because I don't need that anymore. So that's a new object now. And it should try to rebuild it. Let's see if the output's any different. Yeah, it's still got the same one line there. So it was smart enough to know that the output is no different than before. Why is it wrong? So for the list of modules, we have all these in here. And they're all part of the same list. So you should have a list of modules. And then that gets passed into serialized Emacs modules. And that function... I don't know if that's going to work. Yeah, I can't actually see the output there. No. That's not useful. I need a way to... well, I have a configuration. I have, what is it, test config? All right, so test config, home Emacs configuration modules, test config. Okay, so that gives me the list of modules, obviously. And then if I call serialize Emacs modules, boo, because we don't care. Okay, so it's got a G expression. I see all of them. G expression input, G expression format. I don't know what this G expression input means. I mean, what if I do this? I don't know what this is going to do. Might not do anything right, but if I just call map without any of this, well, it has to be a G expression, I guess. What if it's just that? I go back here and run it again. What did I just do wrong? Oh, G expression map serialize Emacs. Okay, yeah, that needs to be expanded. So that's actually kind of helpful. And if I try again to make this a sub expression, I guess the question is, what is it looking for in this case? If every field should turn into a string, it would need to be a list of strings. Let's see if that actually does a better thing. It gives me a G expression. It doesn't seem to show me any details, which seems wrong. What if I do that and go back and run the same thing again? I should move this. Let's just move this up here. Okay, so I actually see something here. This seems sort of right. But it's treated as an input, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. No examples with map. Maybe I can find something like that, though. Let's look in the Guix code base. Right about here. So I'm looking for hash tilde. Are you really not going to let me look for that? I want to look for a hash. Okay. Well, let's be a little bit more broad. Okay, there's got a lot of instances of map. That's in the documentation. Let's see. Gotta end up running into one somewhere. GX input to tuple. Oh, where is that? Okay. Is that really it then? Maybe that's it. Maybe it just has to be a string append with a map inside. I mean... Okay. That's probably going to do it then. So string append. Guess that's the pattern. Okay, now we'll run this. And, well, it's still a G expression. Let's try to run it and see what it does. Maybe it will have a different output this time. No. Doesn't make sense. Match lambda string append. Maybe. So it's possible that I need to have... Where is it? This needs to be a... Wait, hold on. Serialize Emacs module. Hold up. What did I do wrong here? Okay, no, that's right. So let me check. Oh, I'm out of time. I'll check one last thing and then we'll have to jump out. But what I want to check is to see if the serialized Emacs module returns a G expression with the right form that I'm looking for. So if I were to call home Emacs configuration modules test config, let's grab the car of that. Okay, that's one module, and then pass that through serialize Emacs module, and that gives us a G expression with the format F. Excuse me, and then we have G expression input for DW core. Is that right? I mean, I'm escaping it effectively. I'm un-G expressioning it. I guess it's right though, because it has string. Okay. So here in serialize Emacs modules, this should be a string append with the map of all the serialize Emacs module passed in. Serialize Emacs modules. Debugger exited. Yeah, it's that's not right. Something's wrong about that. Ooh, let's take this line out for a minute. Okay, string append foo. And what else am I missing here? The function may also need to be module. Maybe it needs to be something else. It's a match lambda. It returns a lambda. But this can't be run here. So maybe this is actually serialize Emacs module value. How about I do this? Map. What does this return? A list of G expression. Well, that should be right. You have all three of those. You have string append. You're splicing the results of this map into the function, or into the string append. That's so weird. How about this? Serialize Emacs module car value. GX input, GX format. Well, let's try it. It feels like it doesn't see the input change. Maybe I need to just like reevaluate a couple things here. Nope, same. All right, anyway, I'm out of time for this, but I don't know. I learned a lot. I think that it's definitely feasible to just use the REPL and try out a lot of different things here. There's probably some other things I can do for efficiency's sake, like to quickly open up the output of a derivation build from the REPL in an Emacs buffer, so I can take a look at it. But I'll figure all that stuff out, and I'll be able to make a video about this at some point to break down the process and make it a lot easier for people to follow, because I feel like it's not going to be that hard. It looks really arcane, but it's probably not that hard to get this stuff right if you just know the right patterns to use. And I'll just figure those out and I'll tell you. So I'm looking forward to making a video about that soon. So anyway, thank you all so much for being here today and watching me sort of hack around with this stuff. Hopefully it was useful to you. If it was, definitely leave a like on the video or leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Otherwise, hope you all have a great weekend. And until next time, happy hacking. We'll see you.